All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Texas Power Up. Let's get started. We have a great Power Up today. It is the last one for July. Next week, we start the month of August. Hard to believe. Puts us at 19 weeks left in this year to get our clients pended to close this year, right? So 19 weeks. Let's start out with shout outs and gratitude. If you click your little emoji button here, right here at the bottom, and you click raise your hand, just like how I see Brandon's hand, that's how I would see your hand. I don't have favorites. I just, whoever wants to go, I just pick them. Brandon, what is your shout out or gratitude this morning?
Shout outs to Rob, who was just on for teamwork. The guy's just a solid business partner. He's an awesome husband to his wife, who's also a business owner. They had a grand reopening yesterday. And he did a ton of help with her on that. We went to it. There was a lot of people there. So, he's been just working to help everybody. He's a great dad too. So he manages his time well and shows up for everybody. So something I'm very grateful for.
I love that. Rob, that's awesome. And say congrats to Aaron. That's cool.
I will. Thank you.
I love that. That's awesome. Gosh, I love, we all have really big lives, right? I love that. Helen, good morning.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So I just wanted to shout out and give gratitude for Tracy, who is the team leader of the Glumion group. She's just been really, really awesome. I'm pretty sure I had some kind of internal meltdown a few weeks ago. And so, so she's just been really great. And actually literally every single place call for the last couple of weeks have really helped to kind of pull me out of the little whatever I was going through. And so I'm just so grateful for her leadership, and not just her leadership, but her love and her patience and the pep talks and all the things that all the hoops I said she's having to go through with me being in another state. So I'm just very grateful for her and for Place.
Helen, you're awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Tracy, you are so special. Thanks for being such a great leader. And it's human to go through a funk. Totally human, right? The important part is how we respond to it, right? I love that. I love that you are just plugging in. You're all in. The funk's not going to get you. I love that. Brandon, I see your hand again. Yes?
Yes, I also have a shout out. Another one.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking about this right now for the host and the guest today. Oh, this guy doesn't know how to drive. For Maria, shout out to her, because I was just thinking, I was listening to this book the other day, and we probably all heard this before, but like everything's impossible till someone does it. And I started right after Maria, and I remember that was just a couple years ago. And then to see the example that she set forth for a lot of people, and the example you've set, it's just cool to know. Like I was there when we all started, and a couple years later, people were doing $1 million in GCI, and I don't know, that just hit me right now. I was like, man, that's really cool that she's setting that example, because it's an example for everyone, and it's cool. It's real. It's not some BS pinnacle story that no one else could do. It's real stuff that people mentioned 5-6 years ago, and now people are doing it. And so I think there's a lot of credibility in that track record. So shout out to her, OG.
I love that. I love that. Maria, you have your own personal cheerleader stand for this morning, which is really cool. And it is a great point, really great point. The fact that, often in many companies that we know, and especially, at least from my perspective, that's been one of the things I've had to deal with over time, is the people that succeed at the highest levels do so because of something, right? It could be, they're the child of the owner of the company, or, they have some or they have, they got started so far ahead education wise, or something. There's something that just, it's awesome that there's a model where everyday normal people can succeed at the highest levels. There's a lot to be said for that. So I love that. Fan club is real this morning. I'll share my gratitude and we'll start. I'm grateful for Casey in Austin. He's our director of sales. He retooled our agent orientation and post-launch model to help our agents get into production. So I was really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all of our virtual professionals who are on this call. Many of us are supported by our virtual professionals, and they had a huge earthquake this week, and they didn't miss a beat. They continue to support us, and they are just such an important part of our lives. Thank you, everyone in the Philippines who you just pour out your heart every day, and we appreciate you for that. So thank you for that. This morning, guys, we're going to switch gears. We're going to get into our topic for today. I know you guys didn't show up to hear me talk, so we're gonna get Maria on. Today we're talking with Maria Galizia. If you are newer to our company and you actually have never heard of Maria, totally okay. The reason we're talking to her is because she is winning through the place leverage model. So even if you're new to our company, you probably have heard of the place leverage model. You've heard of like the opportunity model, the lead gen model, like our 3 pillars of models. So if you're taking notes, and I would most likely, even though we're recording, here are the stats that you would want to know. Before I pull Maria in and spotlight her, here are her stats. So from July last year, so July 2021, through June 2022, so that's a complete 12 months rolling. GCI was 1,011,353. 1,011,353. That is gross commission income. Outside of the real estate industry, that's called revenue. So she's running a business that has revenue of $1 million or more. Her net 529,451. 529,451. Everybody always wants to know, well, is the million what she took home? No, her net is 529,451. That accounted for 72 units. And sales volume is another question I get a lot of. Sales volume was 38,137,968. 38,137,968. The next question I get a lot of is how many of those were buyers and how many were sellers? So 26 listings sold, 46 buyers sold. So that's 36% listings and 64% buyers. I'll say it one more time. 26 listings sold, 46 buyers sold. That is a mix of 36% listings and 64% buyers. So those are the stats before we get started so that you can write them down. Is there anything I missed? Brandon's got them for you in the chat. There we go. Just in case. The fan club is strong. Like I said, we got you covered. All right. If everybody's okay, I just want to jump in because I have been sent a lot of questions. These are the most questions I've ever been sent for any guest. So I am going to literally just go through them, and we're going to get through as many as we can. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Maria. Maria, the first question that I did receive from a lot of the ladies is, how do you look so good at 8:30 in the morning every day?
I get a lot of sleep. That might be it.
That was actually a real question. It's not my question list, but yeah, 8:30 in the morning. Okay, before I jump into questions, background. Did you grow up in a real estate family? Like where are you from? Why'd you even choose real estate? All of that. Kind of walk us through quick background, and then we'll jump into questions.
Yeah, so I did not grow up in a real estate background, just a regular family, I guess. And I grew up with my parents and my twin sister here in Austin. And we moved to Austin when I was like 10, and so pretty much grew up here. I guess I chose real estate because I wanted to do something a little more dynamic. I was fortunate to where my parents, helped me get through college and everything like that. So I did go ahead and go to college. Took me a little longer than average. I think I went to community college for a few years and then finally went to a university for the last 2 years to get a degree in marketing, business marketing. And so I wanted to do something in business, kind of in sales. So that's my background that I guess kind of led me into looking for those types of careers. And then really just kind of fell into it looking for a job that I thought would fit, what I was looking for.
Okay, so you didn't have a big career before this to pull from, kind of out of college, had started kind of like little things, and then this was like the first real career. But is that correct?
Yeah, so I was mainly in the service industry before, like, through like high school and college. As I was in school, I was in the service industry. I was a waitress for like 6 or 7 years, and I did that as I was getting started in my real estate career too. And so I also met my husband there, so that was nice at the restaurant. And so now, once I graduated, after a few months, I was starting to look for some career paths, and that's how I fell into it.
Okay, got it. Awesome. So first question, what does your non-real estate personal routine look like? People want to know, like, outside of like lead gen, like, are there routines that you have in place that make you successful, or you think they make you successful?
Yeah, so I wish I had some sort of like miracle morning type morning routine, but to be honest, I don't. I think just internally I'm a little more regimented. I don't necessarily, like, sometimes really people really do need that like full on routine, like, get up at 5, work out, do that whole thing before they get started to like get their energy up. Personally, like, I do have times I go in and out of working out in the morning, but I'm not super regimented in that way in my mornings. To be completely honest, I think internally I'm just a little more regimented in that sense, to where I just naturally am able to kind of start things. I like to relax in the mornings. I get up, an hour and a half before I start working, like, 7-ish, and take a little time, get some coffee, hang out with my dogs for a little bit, and then start getting to work around 8. And then after work, my routine is I'll usually, depending on my schedule, I usually have a little more time, like 4 or 5. I'll go to the gym, get home, spend some time with my husband, like make dinner, stuff like that. And I'll usually work for another like hour or two a little later in the evening, like maybe 7 or 8, just to catch up or like prep for the following day. Run any comps, like doing just, well, we're talking about my personal schedule. So, but I take a little break like in the evenings, maybe get back to work for a little bit, but then I'm, usually in bed by like 10.
Okay, got it. Okay. I love how like integrated life you like had to go into like the real estate part, because that is, you do have a very integrated life. Let's move on to the next one. What was your number one activity when you started? Number one activity when you started. And I guess what do you see as your number one activity now, years later?
Yeah, so I know there's a question later more about like lead gen activity. So I don't know if this one is geared more for like just my one thing or like what, that sort of thing. But I think that to answer a little bit of both, my main number one activity when I started was lead generation. Open houses and internet leads and prospecting were probably my biggest sources. And my one thing was just getting business. And then what that has grown into now is probably spending a little more time working on the business versus in the business, which is nice. So that's probably like kind of growing the clientele base as a whole and managing the team. So I think, or like managing myself and the team, I think that would probably be more of my one thing.
Okay, follow up to that. Because lead gen, was your one thing at the beginning, how big of a database did you build like during this time? Like, how big is the database, just so we can get a sense of it?
I believe we have 2,000 to 3,000 people in the database.
Okay, perfect. And for everyone who doesn't know Maria's story, long term, you started with us. I think your license day was like maybe January 5th, 2016, or give or take, something like that. Is that correct?
Yes, or actually like end of December of 2015.
Perfect. For all purposes, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and here we are in 2022. Perfect, awesome. And from that perspective, real estate wise, how do you plan your day? Like, do you have a real estate routine around that? Is it different from before? What does that all look like?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely grown over the years. My day always starts the night before. Like, that's when I plan for the day, look at my calendar, make sure I'm adjusting if certain things, because I have like certain lead gen blocks, but sometimes that may need to be adjusted a little bit. So I want to make sure to get everything I need to get in the following day. I have any big reminders in my calendar, so I make sure that's all set up. Sometimes I even like schedule out emails and texts, like if like I said, sometimes if I'm catching up the night before, I'll kind of like just get everything set up for the following day, because I find that a lot of times it's like we spend our whole morning like just working on like little minor emergencies or like prepping for appointments, when really we should be spending the business hours like working on any transaction details or lead generating. So I try to set up my day so that I am actually able to focus and everything's kind of set up and I'm not just like catching up the whole morning. So usually, I guess back to the question, how do I plan my day? Plan it the night before, even like the week before, to make sure everything's kind of lined up. And my routine is really probably 8 to 10 is look at answering any emails, any transaction type management, like transaction management. 11 or 10 to 1 is probably more like follow-up with clients or prospects, anything like that. And then one to the end of the day is typically appointments or running comps or anything to like get deals going, I guess you could say. Putting like listing prep or logistics, like getting listings lined up for the weekend, those sorts of things.
Okay, perfect. So I just want everybody, just because I'm getting like lots of like private messages, you guys are very private. Good morning, everyone. I'm gonna ask Maria like what it looked like originally, because she gave us her answer right now of having $1 million business. And then I'm gonna summarize it for you guys. So originally think back 2016, 2017, what was different? Was anything different?
I would say it was a more standard schedule of lead genning till 12 or even 1 or 2. So definitely, like I said, it's evolved. So it wasn't always spending that much time on like transaction or listing management. It was like, because obviously for your schedule to evolve to that, you do have to have a lot of business. And so getting that business is the main focus, I think, the first 3-4 years. So it was, I think, a little more traditional, like, and I can't even say my afternoons were filled with appointments because I didn't, I was still building stuff up. So it was probably lead gen until like 12 to 2, and then like lead follow-up or showings in the afternoon.
Got it. So let me summarize for everyone. So to build a database that has 2,000 to 3,000 people in it over the course of 5 to 6 years, what that looks like lead gen wise is probably doing that consistently from 8 to 12 in the morning, or maybe 1 to 2 on some days, right? Like it's quite a bit of time. It's not an hour here and there wherever you want it, because then you never build that compound interest on your business. Now, when your business gets big enough for like to have 2,000 to 3,000 people in the database, then the time blocks of like 8 to 10, where Maria's working on like her current clientele and those transactions, and then 10 to 1, when she said follow up, she didn't use the word lead gen. And so like you guys were like, where's the lead gen? Where's the lead gen? Well, when you have 2,000 to 3,000 people in your database, is your number one thing lead gen? No, you already have 2,000 to 3,000 people you need to follow up with. So you want to be careful that you don't lead gen and then let people die on the vine, right? And so Maria's probably got, like, you could work 100 hours a week and I'm not sure you'd get through all your people that you need to follow up with, Maria. So the bigger your database is, it starts to split. Like your lead gen time and your lead follow-up time may look differently, because you might lead gen 10% of the time and follow up 90% of the time because you have people to follow up with. The reason everyone preaches lead gen is because there's nothing to follow up with until the database is big enough, and the database is your business. And so just wanted to make sure that everybody really got that. The reason that the word follow up is used is because there's 2,000 to 3,000 people to follow up with, right? It would be like having food in your fridge and not using it, right? Like you just go to the store and buy more food. Like you don't need more food, you just got to make the food you got in the fridge. So that's how I think about that. Let me think what else. Does anybody have any questions as it relates to that? Because I'm going to go on otherwise. All right. How many appointments per week did you used to schedule in the beginning? How many do you schedule now? Like, what does that look like? I get that question quite a bit.
I think that it may not be the amount of appointments that's changed, but maybe the quality of appointments. Like, I think I was lucky to get one or two good appointments a week, I think, when I first started out. And some of those may have been maybe a little more, but I think some of those may have been like listing previews or kind of like buyer consults with people I may or may not know were fully qualified. I just wanted to get that appointment and get in front of as many people as I could. So I think in that sense, conversion has grown, but also, of course, skill level grows. So that helps with conversion for sure too. Now I would say on average, I go on hopefully 2 appointments per week, like new appointments. And that can be, I think, sometimes it's as simple as like a phone appointment with an out of town buyer or something that, then Ashley kind of takes over from there, or the both of us are working together on, or a listing appointment. Hopefully, listing appointments obviously are the main goal for me right now. So I would say 2 a week right now.
Awesome. So when you started your career, like you were really trying to get 1 or 2 appointments gone on a week, like that would have been an amazing week for you. Quality may not have been as high because you were getting started. Today, it looks like 2 new appointments a week and the quality is much higher. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you have an ISA set appointments for you? Is that how you built your business? I'm getting that question a lot. Did you have like in 2016, 2017, like, were you the one making mojo calls? Were you the one doing open houses? Were you the one calling your sphere? Or was that handed to you as an appointment and you went and closed it? What did that look like?
Definitely did not have an ISA. It was me doing the appointment setting. So no ISA. The first successful hire I had was in end of 2020. Okay. So, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 5 years on my own. Yeah. And I say on my own, but of course we had the team resources, so I don't really consider that on my own.
Right. It's all partnership. And then I know this question comes up later, but since it's being asked a lot on my side over here, like originally back in the day, 2016, 17, 18, as you were growing the business, lead gen sources, where were you finding success? Like where were you getting business from originally? And what does it look like now that you've built a really good book of business?
Yeah, originally it was everything. Sphere, open houses, internet leads, expireds, circle prospecting, sign calls. So really just everything that we had. I never door knocked. That would probably be one thing that I didn't have, like out of just the whole span of stuff we have available to us. So really everything
but
out.
door knocking, everything but door knocking. And essentially you were just looking to like build the business. So it wasn't like you just needed the business.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't enjoy prospecting, like cold calling, which I don't know that a lot of people really enjoy, but I did do that pretty consistently for at least 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And I have a lot of really good business that has evolved from those original calls. And you know what, actually, now that I think about it, you got your last question about the ISA. We did have a little bit where the team had an ISA that supplemented some appointments. Like I think for maybe a year or two, we had a team ISA. So that supplemented some of them. It wasn't the majority of it, but maybe like a handful a year would come from that. So just going back because I lied about that.
No, it was a very, so we did have a team ISA, I think in 2018, because one of our agents moved away. So she became a team ISA. And I did look up your deals, and it was 5 deals that you got from that year. So it didn't make your business, it added 5 deals to your business that year. But then that girl didn't want to continue being an ISA, which is cool. She was trying to be married and stuff, so that was cool. But it was a very short amount of time. What does business look like today? Like, where are you getting business from today? Has anything changed?
Definitely today. I mean, like the root sources of some of those sources have not changed. Like now I say past clients or repeat clients, when originally those may have been like those original internet or open house leads. But now the source is more like past client referrals, repeat business, agent referrals, agent partnerships, or like referring agent partnerships, I guess you could say, like relocation companies. And I still do have some open house and internet leads, but it's definitely shifted to the majority being like kind of past client database referral type business.
Got it. So for everyone asking what an internet lead is, when a company pays for pay-per-click leads through Google or Facebook leads, like through Brivity, that sort of thing, that's what an internet leads is. It's anytime there's a lead campaign. And for us, we start from day one having internet leads. Brivity manages ours today, but all online leads are leads that you have never known. So they were not Zillow leads or anything like crazy like that. Like that's not something that we built our business on in Austin.
Yeah, so you could call them Brivity leads. I just call it generally internet leads because some of them, like the first year or two, we were using Boomtown. So some of the like Boomtown leads is what we called those. And so like just the general like internet leads or like seller leads, buyer leads that you work that are a little more of like a warm lead, but because
they originated on the internet is why it's called an internet lead for everyone asking. They originated on the internet, they registered, so they're a little warmer than prospecting essentially, right? And then one thing you said was past clients and repeat clients. One thing I want to draw everybody's attention to is how do you have past clients and repeat clients? And when Ben and Chris say, 24 deals a year so that you have consistent income, the other side of that 24 deals a year over 5 years, that's like what, like over 100 clients, right? That get to be past clients and past referrals. When you are doing 6 a year, it takes a very long time to gain repeat business, past client referral business. And so part of the benefit of growing a big business is that big business in turn helps you. So it's not only about like get the deals. It's like those deals end up years later referring all their friends to you, and then being like that $250,000 buyer all of a sudden becomes a $400,000 seller and a $500,000 buyer. That's playing the long game. So I love that. And then another thing that you do really well, Maria, is you are really plugged in. Obviously, you're here today talking to us. Maria teaches a few times a year for Place. And Maria is at, I think, probably every event that Place does, like Built How. And so like when you build agent relationships, you get agent referrals, right? And so just the power of plugging in is something that like Maria does really well, just from the outside looking in. So you get to add to your business, but at the beginning, when nobody knows you and you don't have a track record, like nobody trusts you with their referral, right? And so she put in the 2 to 3 years to get to that point where her experience level matched what they were looking for. So I love that. Okay, how many hours of work are you doing a week? Like are you working 100 hours? Are you working 20 hours? What did it used to look like? What does it look like today? Like, walk us through that real quick.
Yeah, I would say right now it's probably a solid 50 hours. Typical work, like business hours I'm working, so we can call that 40 hours a week. And then I would say I typically spend like 10 hours on nights and weekends with any incoming listing calls or like overflow showings that Ashley is already tied up with a client or something like that. So yeah, I would say about 50 hours on average, sometimes more. Probably used to be closer to 60 or 70 because I would be more on or like more client facing in the weekends. So yeah, it's changed a little bit to where it's lessened to a more manageable level, I would say.
All right, so originally it was more like 60 to 70 hours a week, and then now it's probably down to about 50 hours a week.
Exactly, yeah.
Were there ever times that you were doing like 20 to 30 hours and building your business? Was that like a thing for you?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, maybe if I have like an off week or just like, no, I really can't imagine any weeks like that other than vacation, obviously.
Okay, got it. So like, there's nothing special about you. You're just very consistent.
Yeah, I think I definitely prepare more than the average person. I'm not like a natural salesperson necessarily, and especially in the beginning where I wasn't naturally like confident in what I do without knowing what I'm doing exactly. I think it takes a lot more preparation than the average person. So I'm not like Brandon or Casey who can just like kind of show up and maybe fake it year one. Like I probably took a little more prep for me just to look like I know what I was doing, or at least feel like I knew what I was doing.
I get that. And then one of the questions we received was, what does follow-up look like for older open house leads or older internet leads? Like, do you remember doing that, or do you still like ever follow up with old leads? What would you say to somebody who had that kind of question? How does your follow-up look like for something like that?
For sure. So we recently hired on a virtual assistant, Anne, who is starting to help manage the database a little better. So I think I could give you my ideal when I was really, really working those open house leads, and like what could be a little more realistic now. So like, say like 2017, 2018, I would say do the open house. As soon as they come in, text them, or like as soon as they leave, I mean, text them with my information. Now we have the Brivity open house, so that does it automatically. So either way, then Monday follow up. Oh, well, my text would be something like, hey, thanks for coming by. Send them my information and say something like, feel free to save my number as Maria Realtor in case you see anything. Because a lot of people, especially early in the process, they don't really realize how it works. Like they think they may have to call like all the listing agents to get access, or like maybe that different agents have access to different properties. So I'll let them know, hey, I have access to everything. So if you see anything driving around or a house that doesn't have an open house, feel free to text me the address and I can get you a showing or get you any details. So kind of being a resource to them and texting them like my Zillow link with some reviews and stuff like that. So I would send them that text. So that would be Saturday or Sunday. Monday or Tuesday, I would follow up to see either what they thought of the open house, or see if there's anything else they may want to see. And by then I will have already set them up on an e-alert or some sort of market activity email to send them properties. And and at the open house, of course, I'll try to set an appointment with them. I'll have properties that are maybe vacant in the area that I could just set up a buyer appointment, kind of like a consult / showing for after the open house or maybe later in the weekend. Sorry, I keep skipping around. So go to the open house, send a text, try to set the appointment. Before I leave the open house, I'll try to just have them all entered in the CRM and have them set up on property emails, because otherwise, like, they may get lost, especially before we had Brivity where it wasn't all automated. They might just you might find like 100 good leads in your car on a piece of paper. So I try to just get them all entered as soon as I can and all set up. Later in the week, call them if I hadn't already met with them and see if there's anything they're seeing online, or if there's any other properties they want to see. Maybe try to set a buyer's consult at that point too. Many times they don't answer, so you continue to follow up with all the methods, call, text, email. So probably within that couple week period following it, I might have at least a weekly follow-up with them, and even text like a couple example properties, like, hey, even if they're not responding, like, hey, there's a couple properties that I thought of you and might be a great fit. You know, I'll be around this weekend. Are there any you'd like to see? So trying to continue to set the appointment with them, even if they're not responding. And then from there, more like a monthly follow-up, but still keep them on some sort of like property email or drip. Because sometimes, you know, months later, they'll finally see a property that they like and reach out to you.
Yeah. So like one of my favorite scripts you just shared is, if you're driving around without and you see a house without an open house, let me know and I can get you the information, right? Like, that's so common sense to us. But we're in the industry. So of course we know we can get people information on every single house, but that's not common sense to everyone out there. I like that. How do you get through the suck of boredom to stay consistent in your follow-up, in building your business, in lead gen, in just seeing another client, right? Because you've sold, 40, 50, 60 houses for years now, of a year. This wasn't something new that this year you just had an amazing year. Like, you've been having really great years for a long time. How do you get through the suck of boredom?
So I think that it evolves and it changes over time, and you kind of like earn yourself the right to shift your focus so you're not quite as bored. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's not going to be super exciting times of every single job. So I think I've never really had the mindset of like, oh, this is so boring. You know, I mean, obviously there's times where I think things are boring, but I don't really it's not like I really give myself another option of something to do. Like, that's part of the job. If you work like in a corporate America or something, it's not like, I don't know if people get those same kind of questions, like, how do you get through the boredom of day-to-day work? It is what it is. I have a lot of friends that work from home at their computer like all day, and that's just their job, that it is what it is. So I don't know. I don't know if I have like a trick to get over that. But I do enjoy that it's evolved, and I think there's always something to look forward to. Like, you're always building towards something. If it's your first year or two and you're like a year in and you're lead genning every day, maybe your goal is to hire an ISA, and you have to get to a certain point to get that. So just do that and you won't have to do anymore.
I love that. That's a really good mindset. what's funny is like, it's never occurred to me, nor probably to anybody on this call, to be like, Valencia, how do you get through being bored making calls? Mackenzie, how do you get through the suck of doing transaction coordination for us? Like, we would never say that to company people, right? But as agents, like, it's almost assumed that, like, how do we get on board? So it's just an interesting phenomenon, actually, that you brought up. So yeah, I get that. So then when a day feels like it's going totally wrong, do you have a ritual, or do you have a mindset? Do you have a process to get into different mind space and just turn that day around? Or does it consume you all day and you restart the next day? What does a day going wrong look like? Because most people, something going wrong will consume an entire week. So I just want to get into your head. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think that something going wrong. So let's say like you get a bad appraisal, or like, a deal falls through or something like that. I would say I focus on the big picture. Like, I think kind of taking yourself out of it and not letting it be like the end of the world. I think there's different like meditation tactics you can use. Like, one is kind of like talking yourself through, like kind of narrating your life in a way. I know that sounds weird, but like, just as an example of something, like looking at the big picture, like, okay, an appraisal came in low. That's part of what could happen in a transaction. It sucks, but I think I'll focus less on dwelling on the issue and just get straight to addressing it. And I think everyone's different. Like, I'm not really someone who, if I have a bad day or like an issue comes up, I don't even really want to talk about it or make it part of my day. I think I want to just get to the point where it's no longer my burden anymore, and like focus as much as I can on addressing the issue. Like, I think Chris on his call, there was something he said, I think I have it written down, that kind of resonated with me. Oh, approach things based on how to handle them, not based on how they can go wrong. So it's like, you can spend hours just thinking about, oh, I have to call this seller and the appraisal's wrong. Like, what do I do? It's like, okay, take a few minutes to game plan. Like, your initial thought isn't always going to be the best thing to do. Like, your initial thought may be to just call them really quick and get it out of the way, but you want to, you have a game plan, you have your suggestions, kind of jot those down really quick and then make the call and spin it as positive as you can. Because for me, the things I hate doing most and what could derail my day is like having to let down a client, or like having to make those calls where it feels like maybe I have a role in that, which we all know we don't. There's certain things, like, sure, you may have messed up once or twice, but most likely it's something that you did your best and it just didn't go your way. So focusing on addressing the problem versus dwelling on it, I think is how I get through those like problematic days. And if it's something that's going to last a few days, like maybe it's going to take a few days to, maybe something's going on with the lender and you do what you can that day, but it's still kind of an overhanging issue for the next week. Doing what you can each day and like getting ahead of things with your client, like being proactive and like letting them know what you're doing each day versus like getting to 4 p.m. and them calling you, be like, so what's happening? I think those types of things, to where it's like off your plate for now, you did what you could. You can't, sitting there and being negative and like dwelling on it isn't going to help anything. So I think getting past the issue is how I handle it. And then like maybe just taking a mental break and doing something fun, like a happy hour, or like just something to take your mind off it. But other than that, yeah.
Maria does not miss a good happy hour. She is really, really, really good at that. So just for everybody to know, because I'm looking at the time, I'm gonna I like while Maria was talking, I broke out the questions that have to do with leverage and that part of her business. I'm going to put that for August 18th on our calendar, just because that's a longer conversation, just like today's was. I've got 3 more questions to go through that are relevant to this, and then we'll have her back on the 18th. So just wanted to let you guys know, like, I am not forgetting about you. I see all your questions. You guys are amazing. We can't sit here until 11 this morning because as Maria said, there is lead gen and lead follow-up to do. However, I wanted to make sure that you knew that there's a plan for it. Vera Cruz had
There is a chance I'll be traveling on the 18th. So whatever
day, we'll figure it out. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, Vera Cruz had a question on how many homes did you sell your first year? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was 18.
18 homes your first year. Okay, January through December. Perfect. Did you make a lot of money that year?
I thought it was a lot of money, like 50 to 55,000.
All right. Okay, cool. So what keeps you from being burned out? That was one of the questions. How often do you unplug? It sounds like you have a trip coming up on the 18th, apparently. Just kidding. So what does unplugging look like? What does keeping yourself from burnout look like? Because you are, like most people, and I say this because I see it, so I'm not judging anyone. I'm just looking at the group, my group, not Dallas or Midland or anybody else, but my group will work maybe 30 to 40 hours and then take a vacation of like 4 or 5 days every like 5 to 6 weeks. And you know, the business does not as good. So what does, since you were working 60 to 70 hours and you're working around 50 hours now, how do you not burn out? Or do you unplug? Do you go on vacations? What does that look like?
Yeah, definitely. I probably go on like 1 or 2 bigger vacations a year, and then like maybe several other smaller like weekend type trips. I think I have learned to be really protective of my time, and like setting the expectations with clients. Like I think like Ashley too, she was probably how I was my first couple of years, where I'm like constantly, like even late at night, I'll respond to clients, and sometimes I still do. But I think there's times where I definitely am like, okay, you know, I'm winding down my day. Is there anything else you need or anything urgent? So I think just being systematically more protective with your time definitely helps with the burnout. And because I think it's all just about the expectation, because I think when we get stressed and burned out, it's because like we feel like we can't be left alone, or it's like always stuff coming at us, like we can't turn off. But as long as you spend like a good amount of time before a weekend that you're taking off or whatever it is, and that can be several hours if you have a lot of clients to follow up with, just letting them know, hey, I'm spending, you know, I'm not going to be available from X to Y time. Here's who might be available for emergencies, and just really shutting off towards the end of the day, instead of just keeping it being, you know, a perpetual cycle of people thinking they can text you at any hour.
That's a really good point. The question that was, how do you keep from burnout? And most people assume it is, you got to get away, right? Which is true. That's a really good way of you know, changing it up and having some time. However, I love what Maria said was systematically you're teaching people how to treat you, especially as your business grows bigger, right? And it's proactive, right? Everything is proactive. I hope that everybody's getting the fact that this is a lot of proactive stuff. What this reminds me of is treating your business like a business, right? And there's a few ways to do that. Number one is like you treat your business like a business when you lead generate, because Maria wouldn't be here if she never lead generated. Like, no matter how cute she looks at 8:30 in the morning, people were not going to buy or sell a house with somebody who looks cute. Like, that's great. That might help. I hope it does. That's great for you. But the reality is, like, nothing happens without a contact. Nothing happens without a client. Nothing happens without an agreement being signed. Like, these are the building blocks of any entrepreneur's career, whether you are in real estate or whether you do anything else. You could be selling college admissions. You got to talk to people, right? So I love that. Maria, you said you made like 55,000 your first year. Obviously, Alicia said you 10x that. Congratulations. Why didn't you stop at like, I mean, when you made 100,000, when you made 200,000, I mean, I don't even know how much your parents make, but when you made whatever your parents made at your age, why didn't you stop then? Like what, I guess my last question for today is, what pushed you to this new height when maybe 200,000 was probably enough?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I don't think, it's not that I ever wasn't happy at that number. I don't think I ever pictured myself making that much. And so I'm very happy with it. I think on a personal level, I like to see myself growing every year, not going backwards. So it wouldn't feel like a success if one year I made 250 and then next year I made like 150 or even the same. I mean, there's years it was a little more flatlined, but I think it's always been an upward growth. So I think the motivation to always get better is there. And then I think I like to really be prepared and insulated for the future. So like if the market changes, and not that I don't believe in myself and that my team and I could continue to thrive throughout a shift. It's more that I like to be insulated for like if something happens to me, or if, I want to start a family at some point, like there's things that you're not always going to be have the same amount of time to give yourself. So if I'm at a point where I'm doubling that and then revert a little bit because my life has changed a little bit and I'm back at that 250, then that's still a win. So I think to me, keeping up with what I want to make is being ahead of where I want to be. And that way it insulates me for the future and any changes that might happen.
Okay, that's pretty cool because I don't remember, a lot of times people assume that high earning folks like walked in with this vision, like I'm gonna make $1 million or whatever. I do hear that a lot in my interviews and I'm like, wow, okay, that's cool. But most people don't walk in with that plan, right? I don't even remember what your financial goal was back in the day, Maria, when we met the first time. I mean, it probably wasn't amazing.
Like 100K, like everyone.
Yeah, it was probably like, 6 figures and same thing, right? What I heard Maria say is it's you against you. It's Maria against Maria. It's never, she's not walking around like, oh man, how do I beat Brandon? I mean, not like, that's kind of fun, but ultimately that's not the heart of it, right? Like that's the fun stuff, right? And it's nice to poke Brandon just because he's somebody that it's just fun to you find your people that you can poke and have fun with, right? Don't overestimate that is what gets you like through, right? Like it's the more you can make it you against you, right? And I think you said insulate yourself by growing your business, right? For the future. I really, really like that. So the next conversation we're going to have next time, whenever Maria is available, I'd like to take the conversation because these were good. Like, here's my mindset today. Here's how I used to do things. And everything that Maria said is true today. Like what she said was from 2016, 17, 18. And I remember doing those things in 2005, 6, and 7. So it's not like there's nothing new under the sun, guys. Nobody's figured out a magic bullet. And the way you would know that people figured out the magic bullet is you'd have a bunch of millionaires running around, but you don't see them because it hasn't happened in the last 2,000 years, probably not going to happen in the next 2 years, right? So don't like wait around for the magic pill. Like just, I wrote down that there was something that came up. If you read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, the fundamentals are not merely a collection of good ideas. The fundamentals are a collection of good ideas that outlasted thousands of bad ones. So really well done with that, Maria. I hear you and I like hear you speak and I'm like, consistency is like, and you probably, would you say you're consistent? You'd probably be hard on yourself and say you're not as consistent as you should be. But what would everybody else say? I mean, it sounds like you're pretty consistent.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm dependable. I don't think there's ever a time where I think my clients know that they can trust me. And I think like Ashley knows, like, and same that I know for her, like we can always trust each other. And, I don't think yeah, I would say I'm consistent.
Consistent with always room to grow. Welcome to the club. I hear you. So next time we're going to talk about right around when Maria's business was around 50 or so units closed the year. She took the leverage model and ran with it, and just has built an incredible team. We love Maria's team within our team. So hang around for that next time. I'll send the recording out this morning. Thanks, Maria, for hanging out with us. And until next time, maybe by that time you'll hit 1 million this year in a calendar year. I'm getting the question everybody's asking, is she going to hit it this year, like in a calendar year? Are you ahead, behind, on pace to hit it in a calendar year versus a rolling year, $1 million?
A little bit ahead, maybe on pace at this point, but yeah, that's definitely the goal this year, to hit it in the calendar year. Yeah, we'll get together on a good date for the next call. I'm excited to talk more about, Ashley and our partnership, and then Anne, the new virtual assistant we brought on. So excited to talk more about that.
Okay, I love it. So these are phases. These are phases of your business. Your business gets to have phases. Maria built a good foundation. You're building a good foundation. And next time we're going to put some framing up, some drywall, we're going to put some countertops into this business next time we talk. So that'll be fun. You guys have an awesome time. Next week, we have Jim Rosales, who you heard from last time. He's going to walk us through expired script mapping. He's a master at that. So I'm super excited about it. Maria talked about, like, that was a pillar of her business amongst many of the pillars. And so let's get better at that pillar, and then we will see you next time. Bye, guys. Have the best day.